We've all had those situations where, we were hoping for one outcome and we got another outcome, whether it was professionally or personally. We have all been disappointed. And we've all had to figure out, how to effectively deal with our disappointment. And that's what we're talking about today. My name is Jennifer Mitchell Early. I help individuals and teams achieve organizational and personal success. And this is Leadership Matters. Got a few new tools in the last couple weeks, and today I was so excited to be able to unbox the last one. And when I unboxed it, I could not get it to function, and I couldn't. In fact, it was defective. It had some screws that wouldn't go in. It seemed to be stripped. So I tried, though, as I may, I still couldn't get it to function the way it was supposed to. And I'm the kind of person that will continue to try and do research and troubleshoot and all those things to make sure that I have put forth every effort to get accomplished that which I am trying to get accomplished. But there are just some times, like today, where it's just not going to work. And I have to accept that. And I have to accept the disappointment that comes along with it. And so I just want to talk about how you get over those disappointments. Things like today and like other situations in life, there's going to be things that, quite frankly, disappoint us, that don't work out the way that we imagined or that we thought or even that we planned. And we have to know, especially as leaders, how we can overcome the disappointment to continue to move on. So this is just a quick hit video to just help you, give you some tools and some tips about how you can overcome disappointment in life. And the first thing that I'm going to leave with you is to acknowledge it. Acknowledge how you feel. A lot of us were raised under the mantra, never let them see you sweat. So if you feel some kind of way about something, you never let on to people that you have feelings. And I'm going to say that in the middle of my life, that's probably not, in my estimation, the healthiest outlook for you, for the person who embodies the feelings. Because what happens is you internalize them, you try to ignore them, you discount them, only at a disservice to yourself. So the first tip that I would give to you is to acknowledge how you feel. If you're sad about it, angry, acknowledge it so it doesn't turn into bitterness and resentment. Acknowledge this is where you are, and it's different than where you thought you would be or how you thought things would turn out, and that you feel some kind of way about it. And then take the extra step to actually identify your feelings. For a lot of us, anger is the first thing that comes to mind, and it's the first that comes to fruition or that manifests, because that's our go-to. But there's a lot of levels beyond anger that we actually need to dissect and analyze to identify really how we feel about it. If we're angry, why are we angry? If we're disappointed, why are we disappointed? What about it, the situation, let us down? What are our feelings about it? If there's sorrow behind it, if you're sad, if you're mourning, if there's grief, all of those things, if there's fear, whatever the case may be, we need to take the time to acknowledge, this is how I feel. And I'm not saying that you have to run out and tell all your friends and family, or that you have to, put it on your posts on every social media. I'm saying to acknowledge it to yourself, to identify, okay, I'm disappointed because I had a lot riding on this. I had a lot connected to this. And because this didn't go through, I feel like it's a domino effect and it's going to affect X, Y, and Z. Acknowledge your feelings about the situation. That's tip number one. Tip number two is, okay, you've identified you feel some kind of way, and not just some kind of way, you've identified exactly how you feel about the situation. The next step now is to allow yourself to feel it. Allow the emotions to wash over you. If you're going to scream, scream. If you want to cry, cry. If you want to laugh, laugh. Whatever it is that you want to do to express the emotions, to actually get them out, to let them take their course, then do that. Feel how you feel. Be honest with yourself about those feelings and then let them flow. So you've identified your feelings. You've allowed your feelings to, flow over, through, and out of you. And now the third step is don't wallow. Resist the urge and the temptation to wallow in your misery. We've all heard the sentiment, misery loves company, right? And so what happens is it naturally, in our humanity, we look for people to grieve with, to commiserate with, who understand how we feel because they've been through something similar. And you kind of you form a pact. If nothing else, you form a spiritual and a energy pact with this individual that you all are going to dwell right there because that's what's connecting you. When we feed into this disappointment and discouragement and letdown and all the things that we feel surrounding the situation, then we invariably fall into what I refer to as a coulda, woulda, shoulda stage, where you think about all the alternatives to what could have happened, what should have happened, and how everything would be different if it did happen that way when it didn't. So you spend time, as opposed to problem solving, creative thinking, finding solutions, dwelling on the positive and looking and trying to find the silver lining or a different perspective. You stay in the muck and the mire. And I'm going to say to you, that is not a healthy position to remain in. We naturally move in those directions sometimes, and being self-aware and understanding, okay, I understand the situation is not what I want it to be, but it is what it is. Come to a level of acceptance that this is where you are, and you are going to choose to be okay with it. And the next tip, which is, abuts right up to that one, which is married to dwelling, is pitying yourself, having a pity party and talking about it every opportunity you get, rehashing the situation, lamenting the situation, feeling the disappointment all over again. Resist the urge to throw yourself a pity party. Instead, I'm going to challenge you to do this, to be accountable and responsible for where you are. Whatever happened, we all play a part in what happens in our lives. We're just not, in a lot of respects, not all respects, innocent bystanders. So whether it was that, we read a situation wrong, or we invested in something that we knew from the beginning we should not have invested our time, effort, energy, money, emotions into, creativity into, whatever the case may be, acknowledge your part in it. Be accountable and responsible. And then here is the key. Here, to me, in my opinion, is the most important key, which is forgive yourself. We all make mistakes. We all fall short. We all make assumptions. This is all a part of the journey. Learn to forgive yourself. And in forgiving yourself, you let go. I think at least for me, and maybe for some of you as well, it's been harder for me to forgive myself than it has for me to forgive others. And in not forgiving myself, I hold on to it longer. It's almost like my grip is a vice grip because I expect so much more from myself. Let me give you a tip on the side. This is a bonus tip. Don't be so hard on yourself. This is all a part of life's journey. This too is working together for your good. Next, we've talked about this before, put it in perspective. Put your disappointment in perspective. It was interesting. I was talking to my sister-in-law yesterday on the phone, and she was driving out to watch my nephew's football game, which was some hours away from her. And we just happened to be talking about life. And it was interesting because I shared with her that I had been listening to some old gospel songs, and I thought how grateful I was in that moment to be reminded that what I'm going through now is nothing compared to what I've been through. And that gave me perspective. It helped me to say, hey, when I was younger, we talked about, being young and being young marrieds and with young children, and now our children are growing up. And I thought all the things that I didn't think I would make it through back then, all the things that at that time in my life, based on my limited perspective, I hadn't lived long enough yet. I hadn't experienced enough yet to know that this too shall pass. All those things that I thought would take me out, all of the personal situations and financial situations that I thought were like the end, right? That I would not be able to recoup from. Guess what? 20 years later, here I am. I survived. I am better for having gone through it, but I didn't know that then. And it just takes a different perspective on things. So everything that I have asked for or believed for or had faith for or desired hasn't always been good for me. And I'm at a point now where I can look back over my life and be thankful and grateful for the things that did not work, for the doors that were closed, for the relationships that were severed, for the opportunities that did end. I am grateful now for every chapter that ends, because I know enough now, because of my perspective, to know that when that chapter ends, it's because another one is set to begin. So put this into perspective. Try to think about the benefits of things not working out, and depending on what your disappointment is, I don't want to minimize that. I don't want to make assumptions about that. I'm just giving you general tips that hopefully you'll be able to apply at some point in your journey and say, you know what? That's right. I just need to take a different perspective. I just need to think of it as a door closing, yes. But on the cusp of it is another door that's going to open, and to be excited now, to turn my focus, turn my attention, turn my energy to being excited about the new opportunity that exists, because this one has come to an end. And as you look with gratefulness and thankfulness and an open mind and an open heart towards that new opportunity or new opportunities, be patient with yourself. We can be so critical of self that we become our own obstacles. And what I hope today you take away from this is to get out of your way. You are the biggest obstacle to your future path. Move out the way. Remain patient. Remain faithful. Remain open to everything available to you. There are great opportunities. If you woke up this morning and you're still breathing and you still have the, use of your limbs and your mind and your body, you have another opportunity. That means your journey has not come to an end. That means there's still much for you to do and much for you to experience. We just have to be ready and open to what's going on. So, disappointment is a beast sometimes, right? Sometimes it's been times where something has happened that has reduced me to tears, literally, where I literally pray to God, like, I have nothing else. Now what? And within weeks, months, God showed me this. And it has been something that I could not have imagined for myself, that I never even saw coming. So whatever your level of disappointment with yourself, or with your others, or with others, with a particular situation, with your employer, with your employees, know that this too shall pass. And this is all a part of the journey. This is all a part of the process. And all of this is something that we can glean from and learn from and move on from with greater wisdom and greater grace. I know that as a new banking center manager, early in my career, I would talk to people who had overdrawn their accounts, who were having financial issues, and I couldn't understand it, because I hadn't, again, lived long enough to have those types of experiences. And my counsel, my advice would be kind of trite, like, balance your checkbook and do this and do that. Like, it was just that simple. Life isn't just that simple. And now that I've lived long enough, my counsel and my advice to my employees are completely different, because you're going to have disappointments. You're going to hear no. You're supposed to hear no sometimes. The door is supposed to close sometimes. There's supposed to be some confusion sometimes, so that you can learn from it, so that you can think through and be able to better problem solve, so that you can, have better solutions, or that you can learn to flex your style so that you can communicate better, whatever the situation is. It is everything that chafes our skin, or pricks us or causes us to stumble, is not a bad thing. And that is about perspective too. We can learn from everything. As long as you're here, you should still be learning. Another thing I want to leave you with, for you to meditate about, pray about, contemplate, whatever the case may be, is that success does not equal happiness. Success doesn't even equal contentment. We can look at lottery winners. We can look at stars who you think, they have everything, right? They have notoriety. They have respect. They have money. They have influence. They should be happy. That's not always the case. So whatever it is that you're chasing, make sure that it is something, in fact, that will bring about joy. That no matter the circumstances, that you still have joy, that you still have peace, and you still are content, whether you abase or you abound. That has been one of the things that I have found in the middle of my life to be a priority now, as opposed to, when I was younger, making money and having cars and homes and clothes and trips and all of these things that to me equated to success, right? It looked like people who have a certain level of status in life and economic stability do. At the end of the day, that doesn't even matter to me now. Beyond being a good steward of my funds and being able to take care of my family and myself, that doesn't matter to me. There's so many other things in life, which is why I'm out here today, because when I connect with nature, it gives me perspective. It grounds me. In how awesome life is, and how grateful I am to still be living despite what's going on in the world. Yes, I see the news. No, I'm not immune to the discouragement and disappointment and just the fatigue from the trauma that everyone else is feeling. But then I have to check my perspective. I have to find myself in a place of gratefulness, because my life didn't have to be this way. My life other choices could have led me down different paths, but for the grace of God. So think about what makes you happy, and then that will help you to balance out the things that you're disappointed about, because what may happen over time, like when I was talking to my sister-in-law, is the things that took me out in the beginning, that had me stressed and down on my knees and thinking I wasn't going to make it. Those things don't faze me now. Doors closing, they don't faze me now. Do I get, am I like, sometimes, of course, I'm human, but I don't dwell there. The door's closed. Okay, Lord, what's the next one? Where's the new door? My focus is already on what's next. So I'm hoping that these quick tips will give you something to apply and to at least think about as it relates to life's disappointments, because, we're going to have some. Have a great week.